Welcome to A Moment of Zen. Time to sit back and relax as model, actress, mentor, and supermom Zen Sams takes you on a sexy and wild ride, covering the latest in film, fashion, pop culture, cryptocurrency, fintech, cannabis, and entertainment from the millennial mom's perspective. Here's your host, Zen Sams.
Hello, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen. It's always a pleasure spending my time with you on the airwaves. Thank you for listening and interacting with me on social media. That truly does make it all worthwhile. Please make sure to continue to follow me at Zen Sams. That's Zen with an X, not a Z. And remember that we're now live on Traverse TV Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern. We're on FinTech TV Wednesdays from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern. And of course, all episodes of A Moment of Zen are now streaming 24/7 on Kathy Ireland's Your Home TV. That's all free programming. And you can always find us on our YouTube channel at Zen Sams. We have such a great show lined up for you today. Very, very exciting stuff. In our entertainment and pop culture segment brought to you by OGPay.com. Today we're chatting with actor Kevin Sorbo. That's right, you've heard of him. Best known for the immensely popular series Hercules. Today, Kevin joins me to chat about Sam Smith's Unholy performance at the Grammys earlier this month. Now, Kevin is one of the many left feeling like the performance was the latest pop culture madness in an attack against his faith at the music industry's Night of Nights. We'll chat wokeism in Hollywood, the hidden messages in music and pop culture, and parents are angrily protesting a Netflix cartoon called Battle Kitty. Highly, highly sexualized content. We'll get his take on what all of that means. In our business and buzz segment brought to you by OGPay.com, again, a double header. We're featuring the amazing Cary Carbonaro, Senior Vice President, Director of Women and Wealth Advisors at Capital Management. Cary's the author of the best-selling wealth management book for women, The Money Queen's Guide. Today, we're chatting about how you can set up your function and style with asset classes and what to keep in mind amidst the potential looming recession. Of course, in our cannabis culture segment brought to you by Caldwell Soames, we're featuring Jeff Trotter, Chief Growth Officer and co-founder at Regenibus. Jeff is an advocate of both social and environmental issues facing the cannabis industry today. And we're chatting about how we can position cannabis beyond prohibitionist thinking and focus on how a fully legalized and regulated cannabis plant can deliver economic, social, and environmental positive impacts. We'll also chat about the current cannabis-related legislation moving through the House. In our influencer segment brought to you by Navi Travel, today we're featuring the amazing Ali Majankalda, founder of Lovewick, a free relationship wellness app helping over 250,000 couples stay in love once they've found it. Today we're chatting about how to stay together happily ever after, tips and tricks to keep it sexy and fun, and how complimenting freely can work wonders for your relationship. Stay tuned for our entertainment and pop culture segment featuring actor Kevin Sorbo. Is Hollywood Satan's stage? Stick around for his jaw-dropping answer. We'll be right back after this. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. Don't move a muscle.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OGPay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OGPay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out OGPay.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in our entertainment and pop culture segment brought to you by OGPay.com. That's a double header for them today. We're chatting with actor Kevin Sorbo, best known for the immensely popular series Hercules. That's right, the legendary journeys. You may also recall him from guest starring as Hercules in episodes of the successful spin-off series Xena Warrior Princess. Now, throughout his career, Kevin has made a splash in the Christian conservative communities across America, often voicing his concerns that the messages media, music, and pop culture are delivering seemingly somehow denounce religion, ethics, and morals. Today, Kevin joins me to chat about Sam Smith's Unholy performance at the Grammys earlier this month. Now, Unholy earned Sam and Kim Petras the Grammy for Best Pop Duo, making Petras the first trans woman to win the award. We're going to chat wokeism in Hollywood and the hidden messages in music and pop culture. Now, as of recently, parents are angrily also protesting the highly sexualized Netflix cartoon Battle Kitty. Meanwhile, conservatives have taken issue with the Unholy performance at this year's Grammys, and Kevin is one of the many left feeling like the performance was the latest in an attack against his faith at the music industry's night of nights, nonetheless. Now, politicians Ted Cruz and Marjorie Taylor Greene also expressed worry. Taylor Greene chimed in saying, the Grammys featured Sam Smith's demonic performance and was sponsored by Pfizer. And the Satanic Church now has an abortion clinic in New Mexico that requires its patients to perform a satanic ritual before services. American Christians need to get to work, quote unquote. Now, even if you didn't watch the Grammys, and even if you still have no idea who singer Sam Smith is, there's almost no possible way that you haven't heard the song Unholy if you're even minimally dialed into social media. Well, let's see what Kevin thinks. Welcoming now to the show is the amazing Kevin Sorbo. Welcome back, my friend.
Good to be here. Good to be here. It's we talked a little bit earlier. It's a crazy world we're living in right now, and it's amazing to me how they keep pushing and pushing and pushing the boundaries. And so many people out there just accept it. I've always said the biggest killer in America right now, let alone the world, is apathy. People say, "Oh, what can we do?" We can do a lot. I mean, people keep forgetting about the Constitution. It's we the people. So we need to get these people out of the offices that we supposedly put them in DC. And it's crazy. I mean, why can't we have term limits? I know I'm getting right in the political world here, but everything's political. Term limits. This is stupid that we give these guys 40, 50-year careers. What did Biden do during the 40 years he was in office before he became vice president and then president? He didn't do a lot.
Lots to unpack here. So I love it that you're so passionate here about the political jam. But let's go back to this Sam Smith, because Sam Smith was recently quoted, Kevin, saying that the recording process was cathartic and freeing, and that the song is about liberating oneself from the clutches of others' secrets. Now, it's obvious that the song is about an adulterous affair, recounting a story of a husband giving it into temptation at a strip club called The Body Shop, speculated to be based on the infamous LA club of the same name. What do you say to this? What offended you most about the song and the performance? And is Hollywood Satan's stage?
Well, I didn't watch the Grammys. I don't even watch any of those shows anymore. And as you know, every year the Oscars, the Emmys, everything, the ratings keep going down every single year. But I don't think Hollywood cares. And Sam did what he wanted to do because he knew it would get a response. He did it on purpose. It's all on purpose to get people to go crazy and stuff. And I heard that at the beginning, he said, "Let us pray" or something like that. And ABC or whatever network put it on took that out. I love the fact it was sponsored by Pfizer. I got a kick out of that, but it doesn't surprise me because Pfizer's got their hand in pretty much everywhere right now because the billions and billions of dollars that was thrown at them, especially during the last 3 years. So I'm not surprised at what people do on these shows anymore. And it's kind of sad to me in a way because I'm trying to do movies that have a positive message instead of a negative one. But it just seems every time you turn on anything in cable or the networks, they just want to promote hate and anger and more divisiveness and this cancel culture and woke stuff. I mean, we're at a tipping point right now. And people need to wake up. I always say the sheep are going to be sheep. We need to wake up. Yeah, we need to wake up the lions.
100%. And wokeism is a very real thing. I say, the emphasis on diversity in Hollywood is going to be the death of show business as we know it. There's a growing shift towards wokeism, and many in the industry feel they no longer have the freedom to be creative. In fact, according to the Toronto Sun, one showrunner said that the white men are being discarded in favor of minorities as the industry tries to make up for its past white domination, which will effectively end in a class action lawsuit. I mean, listen, Kevin, I'm all for LGBTQ and Native Americans, Blacks, females, whatever minorities that have not been served correctly in the making of content, whatever it's, whether it's television or movies or whatever. But I think it's gone too far. I know a lot of very talented people that can't get work because they're not Black, Native American, female, or LGBTQ. So is the woke revolution killing Hollywood? What do you say?
Oh, of course it's there. I mean, it's look at the commercials on TV. If you're a white person, commercials, you're fortunate to get any kind of work whatsoever. That was my bread and butter back in the 90s and 80s into the early 90s before I got Hercules. But Look, I'm with you. I don't care what people do in their personal lives. I could care less. I get tired is just this constant forcing down their into our throats, their agenda over and over again. It's like enough is enough. Okay, fine. Live your life that way. Live your life that way. It's fine. I'm a live and let live kind of guy, but it gets to a point that this is ridiculous. I have wonderful scripts that are true story scripts. And then I get, funders that say, well, can we make this guy gay and that one a transgender? I go, but that's not part of the true story that I'm doing. Hollywood can keep doing this. Why can't I do this true story?
You hit a chord, Kevin. You hit a chord with me, because I always say the only thing worse than a lack of diversity is faux diversity, or diversity for diversity's sake. I mean, let's go back to the Academy Awards, right? They've long been criticized for its lack of diversity among the nominees. I mean, the 2016 ceremony was the target of the hashtag Oscars So White boycott. And the same year, the American of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences initiated historic changes to diversify its membership by the year 2020, which was the year critically acclaimed Parasite became the first foreign film to pick up the award for Best Picture. So there you have it.
Yeah, but they're always kowtowing. They're always kind of saying we got to do this, we got to do that. But it's just so amazing to me. Look, if I run a business, I shouldn't be forced to hire that person or this person because of whatever their religion, their skin color, whatever it may be. I want to hire the best person. If that happens to be a transgender, then that's the best person.
Exactly.
If a gay guy, that's the best person. I love the fact that I get attacked on the internet. Facebook took me down a while ago for posting the truth because, as you know, Zuckerberg and his little troll minions don't like the truth. But no. I get attacked for being homophobe. I'm going, I've been in Hollywood 40 years in the business. Almost every set I've ever been on, and 7 years on Hercules, 5 in Andromeda, I've shot 80 movies. There's a gay person. You won't find one gay person to say I was horrible to him, because I wasn't.
Yeah, you're no homophobe.
Everyone the same on the set. I like to have fun on the set. We're lucky to make a living at what we do. So I'm grateful when I'm working and beyond there. I'm not there making fun of people or being mean to people. It's just so ridiculous.
It is so ridiculous. All right, now I want to get your opinion on this new Netflix thing. Parents are really angry over bondage and butts in this sexualized Netflix cartoon called Battle Kitty. So this launched last year. It seems fun and harmless at first glance, but the series is about a feisty kitten who embarks on a quest to become a great warrior and defeat all the monsters on this battle island. But it has very disturbing sexual overtones, and parents now, Kevin, are trying to get Netflix to cancel it or at least change its age rating. The show, I know, is rated at rated for children 7 years and up. You're a father. Would you allow your kids to watch this? And is Hollywood complicit in the over-sexualization of children?
Not at that age. To me, it's let kids figure out what they want to be when they get a little bit older. These 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds and the sexualization of it, it's just stupid to me. I mean, I didn't grow up with that. You didn't grow up with that. And I look at cartoons. I like Bugs Bunny. All that promoted violence. I go, well, come on. I didn't commit violence because of Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd. I mean, it's so funny what they keep, like I said, once again, trying to force things down our throat to accept this way of life or that way of life. Let kids grow up. Let them grow up and find out on their own when they live life in the real world instead of the fantasy world of cartoons or television or movies. Because I go back to sitcoms right now. What have they done in sitcoms? The dad's always kind of fat and stupid and dopey. The mom's always kind of hot, and the kids make fun of dad. We're totally on purpose denigrating and attacking the family life, the nuclear family life. Well, look what's going on in the Black community when 80% of the Black, African Americans. I'm a Norwegian American, by the way. I thought we were all Americans, but I'm going to fight from my left son Lutefisk Day. Anyway, you look at what they're doing with families now and trying to make it look like we don't need dads, we don't need moms, we don't need both. We need maybe 2 dads or 2 moms. It's just so weird to me. And it's sad because you see what's happening in the country. You see the anger, you see the divisiveness, you see the breaking apart, and we're doing that over and over again. And like I said, I'm trying to do movies that have a positive message, that hopefully have love and laughter and forgiveness, and the good guy's going to win, because I think we're tired of the bad guy being glorified as the person to emulate.
I couldn't agree more. And even to your point, if you look at this Netflix cartoon, you think kids, right? Although Battle Kitty has garnered some positive reviews, the characters are dressing in bondage gear and obsess about butts and twerking to the point that it's inappropriate for young children. I was horrified when I began watching it after researching it. So I definitely would like the show canceled or change the rating to something, teenager. But there's totally a BDSM thing throughout, and an over the top emphasis emphasis on buttocks, and there's a ton of sexual innuendo disguised as potty humor. And this is a result of a pornified culture infiltrating content for younger and younger kids. I'm completely sickened, Kevin, completely.
Well, and once again, it's on purpose. I don't think they even care about the ratings anymore. I think if everybody stopped watching it, there's always going to be a small group of people that will, and they just want to get a message across. I remember the producers of Friends. I like Friends. I laughed at Friends. Matthew Perry and I used to be in the same acting class together years ago. But they admitted to pushing agendas, pushing the liberal agenda. And I could see that. I was smart enough when I was watching, I could see that. But, younger kids watching that is a slow brainwashing technique, for lack of a better term. And I just think, once again, it starts really in the public schools all the way up through universities. You see what's going on there, how they're destroying people's, that anybody has a different point of view. That's the weird thing. Why can't freedom of speech is supposed to have everybody's? I don't hold our anger and hatred towards people that are agnostic, atheist, liberal. If they have a different point of view, that's what freedom of speech is supposed to be all about, and freedom of thought. But anybody like me or you, they want to attack us all the time, because the majority of the media, the majority of the governments across the country, of the governors, mayors, whatever it may be, these are liberals pushing liberal points of view. I still laugh during the when Trump and Biden were going at it, and Biden said that Antifa was an idea. An idea. When people are out destroying people's businesses, burning down cars and attacking police, and that's an idea. And governors and mayors of these places, these states and these cities, let it go on. I mean, enough of this, guys. This is crazy.
What about Black Lives Matter? That was the biggest scam of all scams in American history.
And people are finding out. What do they do to help Black communities? Nothing. They just pocketed the money, bought a bunch of houses, and took trips. The whole idea of Black Lives Matter, I printed out their manifesto, and certainly they ended up taking it down. But they were against God. They believed in Marxism. They wanted to get rid of the family. They equated women being pregnant to slavery. So let me get this right. So if women stop getting pregnant, in about 100 years, there would be no more mankind left. And now I guess that's what Fauci and Gates are after anyway, to get rid of the world population.
Oh boy. Well, listen, wow, you could talk more than me. And then that doesn't happen very, very often. We are out of time, my friend, but I love chatting with you. You are so insightful. Loved your perspective. You have very, very, very great analogies that, you compare a lot of, your views to that make total sense when you put it into context, especially coming from Hollywood, which isn't easy because, as a Republican, Christian Republican in Hollywood, you got it coming for you.
They booted me out. My manager and agent over a decade ago. I'm the original cancel culture guy in Hollywood. But I do want people to check out my movie. It's in theaters right now. Go to leftbehindmovie.com, leftbehindmovie.com. It's based on the books that sold 80 million copies back in the 90s. And sorbostudios.com, sorbostudios.com. It's my site mixed with my wife, and we got all kinds of great information on there. So sign up.
I love it. You did your own plug. I didn't even have to do the work. Well, listen, I know that Reagan movie also opens later this year, and Miracle in East Texas is another movie that you directed opening in the fall, which is great stuff. So, Kevin, you're always busy, and you're the original, imitated but never duplicated. Guys, you definitely have to check out Kevin on the gram. Go to K Sorbs. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. That was our entertainment and pop culture segment brought to you by OGPay.com. We'll be right back after this.
Hi, this is Kathy Ireland here on A Moment of Zen, brought to you by Your Home TV. We've developed an all-inclusive subscription-free network that you're going to love, whether it's financial freedom, fashion, beauty, health and wellness, wonderful weddings, travel and culture, cooking, entertainment, and short-form documentaries, programming for everyone. Classic films and new shows, including Kathy Ireland Presents American Dreams. We've developed this network just for you. Please check out yourhometv.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up in just a few minutes in our influencer segment brought to you by Navi Travel. Today, we're featuring the amazing Ali Majincalda, founder of Lovewick, a free relationship wellness app helping over 250,000 couples stay in love once they've found it. Inspired by hundreds of interviews with diverse couples and dozens of research papers, Lovewick boasts the internet's largest library of fun couples questions, fresh date ideas, and research-inspired relationship tips. Ali studied behavioral sciences at Stanford and then did her grad school research on romantic love and technology at the Royal College of Art in London. She's She's been featured in outlets like Forbes and the Daily Mail. She's over 35 million views on TikTok and has raised over $1 million in pre-seeding funding led by Corazon Capital, a fund managed by former Match Group, Tinder, and OkCupid execs. Today, we're chatting about how to stay together happily ever after, tips and tricks to keep it sexy and fun, and how complimenting freely can work wonders for your relationship. Welcoming now to the show is the amazing Ali Majincalda, founder of Lovewick.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
So excited. Okay, let's dive right in. So
Yeah.
Lovewick, I've done a lot of research on you, isn't couples therapy. And it isn't just for fun. It's a couples app that truly helps couples learn about each other and share new experiences. And this is really rooted in insights from academics and therapists and real couples. What was the inspiration behind this amazing app? How long has Lovewick been in the market, and how many couples are currently using it?
Yeah, thank you. Honestly, it comes from a very personal pain point. I was in a 3-year relationship with my college sweetheart. We were 25 years old. We were kind of trying to figure out, is this our forever person before both going away to grad school? Because long distance is a haul for a lot of people. And ultimately, through these open-ended question cards that my therapist gave me, we started having conversations about, do we want to raise our children with religion? What's our ideal vision of retirement? And we decided we're going to be better friends than lifelong partners. So I moved to London and was in the dating app scene for the first time. And I think I went on 150 first dates in 3 years.
Wow.
And there were beautiful moments, there were ghosting, awful moments, but really this it struck me, why are there so many apps to find a date? And there was nothing to help me cultivate my relationship with my partner other than therapy. And so I turned it into my dissertation topic. I started exploring it in my final projects at grad school. And by the time I graduated, I was just very deep into this topic and couldn't imagine a better job, to be quite honest.
It's fantastic. I mean, and when you look at it, right, society is set up to satisfy business interests, not family interests. And there are all these forces against couples and families, and they don't even have any organization to really protect them. They don't have allies like a union or a party. They have to figure it out literally by themselves. So I'm glad now we got you. We got Lovewick.
Thank you.
So my wifely advice, although I have to admit I don't always practice what I preach, typically I say there's 3 things on the lower level of the priority chart that I say are critical in any relationship. It's caring, fondness, and admiration. I mean, these are essential for building the friendship, important factor of the house's foundation.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the end of the day, it takes a lot of work, and you need to have some fun with it. So your app is incredible. Now, I saw a fun TikTok you did saying not to put too much pressure on your relationship by having your partner be your only support system, and that having a variety of people you can lean on is linked to lower rates of breakups and higher well-being. Tell me more.
Yeah, I mean, it's very natural for our partners to become our best friends and the place we go for support and telling our secrets to. But making that the only person you're investing in it puts too much pressure on your relationship such that it is associated with higher rates of breakups and divorce later on. And so if at all you can manage spending lots of quality time together and of course sharing your inner world with them, but continuing to invest in your friendships and family relationships, just a handful. It doesn't need to be you're friends with everybody and you're going out all the time, but it really, really just, takes some pressure off of that primary relationship with your partner, whether or not you're really aware of it.
Good advice. Good advice. And also, look, increased life satisfaction in a research associated with married people was twice as great when participants felt their spouses were their best friends. But to your point, it's important to remember, however, that best friends shouldn't mean your only friend.
Exactly.
And couples need to have space from each other. I always say this to my husband: oak trees won't grow in each other's shadow, my love. So give me space. You know what I mean? In addition to alone time, having reliable friends and family, of course, that helps buffer people, through the storm, so to speak. So on point. Yeah. All right. Another great piece of advice. You say compliment freely. We underestimate the value of compliments and overestimate the extent to which someone would find it weird. Tell me more.
Yeah. No, there are a couple studies on compliments and just how, for some reason, our gut reaction is to hold something back. If we have that person has a nice outfit or if they're doing something well, we worry that if we compliment too often, it'll start falling on deaf ears and it will seem like we're just being sweet about everything, and then any one compliment will have less weight, but that's actually not true. So it's like a very misunderstood situation, and you should compliment freely. People do appreciate them. Think about the last time you got annoyed by someone complimenting you too much. Unless it's like someone that you don't know and you don't feel like actually is saying those things for the right reason,
Right.
maybe you start getting weirded out then. But like in general, among friends, among family, among your partner, people like your partner, it feels good. It feels really good to be noticed and
Yeah, you
appreciated.
can never love and compliment too much. I always say that.
Yeah.
And consistency and empathy are central in true partnerships. You know, if your partner asks for a hug after a rough day, and half the time you're happy to do it, but sometimes you snap at them because you're busy, for example, well, they're going to learn that they can only count on you, 85% of the time, not 100. And attachment injuries, what they call, occur in children when caregivers are inconsistent or sporadic, but attachment injuries could actually happen in married couples as well. So it's all interconnected. Now, you say commit 1.5 hours a week to a shared activity with some element of excitement. It impacts relationship satisfaction even months later, and it's tied to greater desire.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think people assume that all quality time is created equal. Sitting on the couch and binge watching a new show, ordering in, it's comfortable, it's great, it can be a good way to unwind at the end of the day, but to assume that that's going to further your relationship or improve your relationship satisfaction is not actually what the research has found. So research on couples who have been assigned to an exciting 90-minute activity a week versus a pleasant activity versus no activity, researchers found that ones in the exciting condition group had significantly higher relationship satisfaction, and that it's not just spending time together in general. Like the quality and the excitement angle of that time together is actually really important. And this theory called the self-expansion theory, when you try new and exciting things, you feel like you're growing, you feel kind of proud of yourself for like stepping into a new version of yourself. And people who do activities that help them grow in that way, research shows they're more likely to have sex on a day that they do things like that with their partner.
Wow. I guess it's the adrenaline rush or all the endorphins rushing.
Yeah, and probably like a self-esteem and confidence boost. Like it feels good to try something new and grow.
Oh, without a doubt. And most parents, listen, we figure out how to tend to our kids and our jobs pretty well, but we might end up scrimping on the marriage. I mean, someone might say, oh, they're an adult, they don't need me like the kids do. I mean, but it helps to literally put the health of your personal relationship on the schedule somehow, such as regular date nights, or I even put sex on the calendar. I mean, 15 years later, I have to prioritize. I put sex on the calendar. I mean, why wouldn't I? He's an incredible lover, but I have to do it. He's like, you're slotting me in. I was like, yes.
Yeah, no, people have a lot of shame around like having to schedule and find time and even find time for intimacy. And it's like, if it does the trick and it's really fun when you do it, like do you
do you
him
or do me.
Yeah.
So capitalization attempt, another I didn't know about this one, but this is fun. I like the terminology that there's a lot of edutainment involved in your TikToks.
Yes.
So share the good stuff that happens with people you love. It's linked to higher trust, mental health outcomes, and benefits extend to both person listening and receiving. Tell me more about this.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are worried about bugging their partner or bugging their friends too much with like good news that's happening in their life. They feel maybe braggy about it, or especially I feel like women have been socialized to kind of like do that less. Just like, oh, am I being too much? Am I coming on too strong? And that's just not the case. The research shows that when you share good news and good things from your life with your partner, it has a positive impact on you and has a positive impact on them just for being the one listening to it. Probably because like they feel important, like an important person in your life, that you would want to share that news with them. And so I was saying like even little things like maybe you've been trying to grow tomatoes in your backyard and today you notice one's like really big and juicy and you're kind of proud of it. Like send your partner a picture of the tomato. It doesn't have to be like super relevant to anything. It's just something that makes you smile.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't agree more. And teamwork really does make the marital dream work. People in successful relationships feel supported and assured that their partner will always be on their side. I mean, in a true partnership, you hurt when your partner hurts. And a problem for one of you is a problem for both of you. It's not, I don't say it's codependent, but interdependent. And there's a huge difference. So yeah, all of this is extremely important. But your app, so let's chit chat 1 minute about your app. Tell me some of the fun things that we can encounter there.
Yeah, well, it's just so, it comes from my nerdy brain where I read all this research and I was like, what are these papers actually saying? So, exciting dates, complimenting freely, telling your partner about the good stuff that's happening in your lives. I was like, how can I slide that into something that's still fun and playful, to get these habits for couples kind of built in? So the app kind of has two major parts. One is an open-ended question game where you can pull from different decks. So like a sex and affection deck, a interest and preferences deck. And when you pull up a card, there's a question like, what was your favorite way to play as a kid? And they're meant to be open-ended questions that help you learn something about your partner that maybe you've forgotten or never learned in the first place, to see them in a new light. And you put the phone down and you have that conversation in real time. So it's kind of using screen time to get people off their phones a little bit and then come back. And if you want to take notes about how the conversation went, you can, but then you mark it as played. And every so often it unlocks an activity or a date idea related to that conversation. So maybe related to that would be build a fort in the living room. And you're like, oh, that sounds kind of fun. Like this Thursday, instead of watching TV in bed, we'll like build a little pillow fort and we'll do it there. It's just like little tweaks on things that you're already doing that will set your relationship up for success and shouldn't feel like an expert top down being like, here's what you're doing wrong in your relationship. Like,
Right.
Here's work that you need to do to be better. I just wanted it to feel a lot more organic and natural than that.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me like when I was pregnant, I had a pregnancy app and it would like remind me and tell me all the fun things to do and where to and how to participate and the markers I should be, it was almost like my guide on my phone. And I feel like that's the same kind of experience and where it's interactive, but there's no pressure. Now, do both partners have to have it downloaded or can one just, how does it work?
No, they don't. And that was very intentional because one, sometimes you're dating very early in a relationship and you want access to all these really fun date ideas. You want to be able to write down things about your partner that you don't want to forget. I call those forget-me-nots, like the way they like their coffee, their shoe size or clothing size, to be able to get them gifts and not have to text them like, hey, what's your shirt size again? So anyways, there are a lot of people using the app who are early on in a relationship and they're like, I don't really know if I'm bought in enough to like want to invite my partner in to use this with me. There's also a lot of people who have longtime partners who are just kind of anti-technology or they're so busy that they would never really contribute to it anyways. So yeah, you can use the app unpaired and still have access to all these questions, all these date ideas, all these forget-me-nots, or you can pair with your partner and then both of you can collaborate. And that's honestly, those couples get way more out of it because especially for the date ideas and things, you can both be contributing ideas that you want to do in the future. And that builds more buy-in if both of you are kind of active in that process. You can both be adding memories like the day you got engaged, the day your child was born. And it's fun to kind of create like a digital scrapbook of the journey of your life as a couple.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So one or two. Honestly, and some polyamorous couples use it too.
Well, what you've done is you've done an amazing job at creating a very proprietary app. And we know that everything is app-based these days. So congratulations on that. We're definitely going to be looking out to hear more from you. But thank you for coming on and sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, and more important, thank you for being fun.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
Absolutely. Guys, you have to check out Allie. Go directly to lovewick.com or on the gram @withlovewick. That was our influencer segment brought to you by Navi Travel. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OG Pay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OG Pay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out ogpay.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in our Business and Buzz segment brought to you by ogpay.com, we're featuring the amazing Cary Carbonaro, Senior Vice President and Director of Women and Wealth at Advisors Capital Management. Cary is an award-winning certified financial planner with over 25 years of experience, a tireless advocate for women in the financial industry, passionate about increasing financial literacy and empowering the gals. Cary is the author of the best-selling wealth management book for women, The Money Queen's Guide. She was ranked number 4 on Investopedia's top 100 financial advisors list. Today she's here and we're chatting about how you can step up your function and style with asset classes and what to keep in mind amidst a potential looming recession. Now, there's never been an aggressive fight against inflation that hasn't been accompanied by a rapid economic slowdown as in the 80s. So, could this time be different? Well, here's the good news about the US economy right now. Despite a wave of high-profile layoff announcements, most workers are still very much employed. Last month, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that the number of people filing for unemployment benefits fell to a 9-month low. The unemployment rate remains at 3.5%. The lowest in a half century. And there are currently about 10.5 million job openings across America. So why then could the US still be marching towards a recession? Well, here to break it all down is the amazing Cary Carbonaro. Welcome to the show, Stunner.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you
so
for coming
happy
on.
to be here.
Yes, I love the beautiful, vibrant color pink you are wearing. For those of you listening, she is very, very stylish. Let's jump right in, Cary. Is a recession looming and should we be concerned?
So definitely we're in an economic slowdown. There's no question about that. Definitely the rising interest rates are hurting everybody's pocketbook. I don't know if anybody's went to buy a car lately, but you're going to have sticker shock between the rising cost of the price of the car and the financing prices are I've seen between 8 and 12%, depending on your, how strong your credit is. So people are definitely feeling it in their pocketbook, and that, inflation is not keeping pace on the salary side as well. However, the Fed is doing what the Fed is going to do to bring down the interest rates and bring down the inflation, right? There's no question about it. They're doing it, and they're looking at the job market, which is still incredibly strong. So inflation has come down for the last 6 months. Is a recession coming? Even if it is, it doesn't matter. You should still be positioned, as far as I'm concerned, with your financial plan should not be affected. So when I do financial planning, it doesn't matter if the recession is coming or not. You should still be saving. You should still be putting away for your retirement. You should still be having your emergency fund. So your long-term plan should not change based on the short-term, what's happening in the economy. And usually I get people saying, oh, but I have to change based on what's happening in the world. And I say, no. Maybe we want to switch some asset classes up or your risk profile, but we're not going to change our long-term strategy.
There you go. You can't be that reactive. Now, should we do fall into a recession, I think that the characteristics of this recession are likely to be very different than prior ones. And for 2 reasons, in my opinion. The state of household finances, like healthy savings rates and relatively low levels of debt. And I'm going to circle back to demand for labor, which continues to be resilient, like you just said.
Yes.
So we've not seen the type of severe pullback we usually see at the onset of a recession, where businesses look to cut costs rapidly. The pullback is likely to be softer and more gradual than in the past. So I don't think we're going to see broad-based layoffs like in the past. I think it's a very different environment. Now, let's move on. You explain an asset class as a group of securities that exhibit similar characteristics, behaves similarly in the marketplace, and is subject to the same laws and regulations. And there are 3 main asset classes: equities or stocks, fixed income or bonds, and cash equivalents, each serving a purpose within one's portfolio. You wrote this really fun article in where you compared asset classes in terms of something everyone understands: shoes. And you said, like asset classes, they each serve a purpose, and it is a good idea for your closet and your portfolio to have some of each. Now, this article was brilliant. Kudos to you. Of these asset classes, which should we be focusing on to hedge against current inflation and a potential recession?
So, well, they all serve a purpose, right? And so, what's interesting right now is cash is king right now. For the first time in a very long time, we are actually getting money on our money. We're actually getting interest on our cash, which has not happened in so long. I mean, you have to go back years and years and years to even remember when you were getting potentially money on your money. So, I mean, even the risk-free rate of return, which is treasury bills, are yielding between 4 and 5%.
Wow.
So, which is unbelievable. We haven't seen that in so long. And then bonds also are, because all the new issue bonds, because interest rates are so high, are also inching up. So, for the past decade, we've been getting, we were lucky to get 3% on our bonds. Now the new issues are 5 and 6%. And these are, stable blue chip companies issuing debt. So it's a very interesting time to get some money on your money, which has been completely lacking for the past 10 years or even more. And so let's talk about some other asset classes. So you should always have your large cap or your blue chips in there, which I call pumps, which are your stable, portfolio. You should always have a little bit of those in there. And then your other different types of stocks, you should always have a little bit of. International, which is doing fantastic so far this year. Small cap, which is doing fantastic so far this year. Both of which were very, very, very beat up last year. Growth stocks are doing well so far this year. Now, again, granted, we're only 5 weeks in to this year, but it's very interesting how we've definitely turned a corner with stocks. And what's interesting, and I don't know where we're going to wind up for the year. You've got a lot of different people prognosticating about what's going to happen. But I'll tell you, in the past, if you've had January is a positive year, that usually follows that the rest of the year will be positive. There's a lot of, history based on that. Of course, we don't know. Nobody has the crystal ball, but just based on history, that it should be a positive year for stocks. Let's see what else. I like a little bit of everything. So I like the REITs. I put in there a little bit about ESG and socially responsible investing, and I called those Birkenstocks. And so people who want to vote their principles with their money, they can invest in socially responsible funds where they, get to pick what they want and what they don't want in their portfolios. Like, so for example, if you want to focus on a company that promotes women, you will say that I want women, I want women on the board or whatever. And then if I don't want guns and alcohol or tobacco, take that out. So
you could cater it and get very, very specific. To the investment. So as a result of these headwinds, Cary, managers and consultants said that there's going to likely be more mergers and acquisitions this year, although higher interest rates and cost of capital mean it's unlikely that mega deals are going to be struck. Rather, top line revenue and margin erosion, as well as organic growth challenges, will encourage smaller asset managers to really reevaluate their strategic plans and consider becoming a buyer or a seller, so to speak. So the case for M&A for these mid-sized players in or around 500 billion for assets under management we're talking about is very strong. What do you say to this? And is this a good area for investment?
Sure. The only thing is it going to be, the problem is, again, without having the crystal ball, being in each little asset, having all your eggs in one basket, right? So you have to diversify them. So if you're going to be in that mid-size space, mid caps, small caps, you have to, how are you going to know which of those are going to actually be consolidated? So you don't. So if you're in that asset class, then you're going to participate in whatever happens that is going to be positive. So again, that's why you always have the little bit in each asset class.
Yeah, well, that's a great point. You have to diversify. But listen, it's not all doom and gloom for managers this year. A very, very strong article came out in the Financial Times. But those specifically for those running ETFs, private market funds, and sustainable investments are really expected to attract the biggest inflows this year, according to market analysis reports. And the growing adoption of actively managed ETFs should come as no surprise. I mean, major active mutual fund providers have entered the ETF fray by converting or cloning existing mutual fund strategies or even adding new strategies. Yeah, the
Yes.
improved tax efficiency of ETFs is a quick win for investors. So I say we're going to see much more choice in the active ETF realm. And I know that there's been a lot of choice in terms of individual funds, but perhaps we're going to see more knobs and dials in portfolios so investors can better control their exposure to taxes or, like you said, ESG, or other personal preferences. How do you feel about ETFs, and what are your thoughts on this?
So I am a big fan of ETFs. We started using ETFs years ago and moved away from mutual funds for a lot of reasons, mainly taxes. And so it's interesting because last year, as you know, was a double-digit down year, both stocks and bonds. So that's, almost like a black swan because there's only been 4 other years in history where that's happened. So
Yeah.
it was a very interesting year last year. And what happens is now people are getting their tax bills and they're like, how could I lose money and get a tax bill in my mutual fund? And it's called phantom income, and it's done all the time. It's because of the way the mutual funds are structured, and it's not a great thing to happen to people. And when they get it, they're super shocked and unhappy, and it's a double whammy. So you lost and you owe taxes, and
Oh
it's
my
like, how
goodness.
can that be possible? But it's true. But with an ETF, you don't have that. You have much more flexibility to control your taxes. You can control when you sell, when you buy. You don't have the gains passed on to you. You don't have the phantom income. So it's just a much better vehicle with lower cost structure. And it really replaces, it's the best of both worlds of a stock and a mutual fund.
I love it. We're both fans. All right, Cary, let's dive right into your field of expertise. Let's chat financial literacy for women. Many Americans are currently functioning in today's environment with a poor level of financial literacy. This is more true among women than men, and more true among underrepresented minority women than their white peers. Especially problematic, Cary, in today's environment is the finding that financial literacy is particularly low in the area of comprehending and understanding risk and uncertainty. On average, US women correctly answered only 1/3 of the index questions related to risk and uncertainty. And the same holds true among African American and Hispanic women. This means that these ladies are ill-positioned to make decisions in a time when uncertainty and volatility dominate economic and financial life, which is the current state. Cary, tell me, how do we shift this narrative?
This is my life's work. So I'll tell you, it's very difficult, yet I will never stop trying. So my goal in my current role is to speak to women, to get women to understand this, to break the barriers down of why people don't understand this, why they don't want to understand this, why they glaze over when we talk about money. So my analogy with the shoes as an asset class, I actually got an incredible amount of feedback from lay people, or what I call lay women, because it's written for women, who said, I've never understood this before. Nobody ever explained it to me like this. For the first time in my life, I understand what investments mean and what the difference of the different asset classes are. So that is my first piece of many that are coming. I will be shouting from the rooftops for the rest of my life until they put me in a grave to try to change this.
Good.
Because women need to know, and it's so important. And women have so many strikes against them when it comes to money, that we need more money, not less money. We live longer, we make less, and we save less, and we invest less. And all of these things should be the opposite. And because we live so long, and we have all these things that we need, we take care of our family members. We put others before ourselves. We're afraid of the stock market. I mean, it just keeps going on and on with all the issues with women. And really, I just want to start the conversation. I want to get them to want to have this conversation and learn about it. It's the most important thing in my life.
Oh, I love your passion. And thank you so much for coming on. We covered a great deal here. You are inspirational, truly. Thank you for being a trailblazer in your field and for inspiring women and teaching women and continuing, your purpose to educate as many women as you can.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for getting the word out.
You got it. You guys definitely have to check out Cary Carbonaro. Head to her website at carycarbonaro.com. That was our business and buzz segment brought to you by ogpay.com. Now, one thing is certain. The U.S. economy is a large, complicated machine that can sometimes defy expectations. And the levers that Federal Reserve uses to fine-tune that machinery are also imperfect, guys. So even with the Fed's clearly defined plans, it's anyone's guess exactly how the economy will respond to its maneuvers in the near term. You got to do your research. You got to follow your gut. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OGPay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OGPay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out ogpay.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Coming up in our cannabis culture segment brought to you by Caldwell Soames, today we're featuring the awesome Jeff Trotter, Chief Growth Officer and co-founder at Regenibus. Jeff is an advocate of both social and environmental issues facing us today. And at Regenibus, they are firmly in business of sustainability and very passionate about assisting cross-sector collaboration in the cannabis space. They're at the forefront of positioning the cannabis industry as a game changer for humanity by advocating for the normalization, legalization, and regulation of cannabis. They align their work with the UN Sustainable Development Goals as they see the cannabis industry well positioned to deliver long-term economic, social, and environmental impact, a sentiment that I very much echo. They go to market in 3 connected and integrated verticals: technology, advisory, and media. Today, we're chatting about properly positioning cannabis beyond prohibitionist thinking and focusing on how a fully legalized and regulated cannabis plant can deliver economic, social, and environmental impacts, of course, all while solving real-world issues. We'll also chat about the current cannabis-related legislation moving through the House and what that will entail should it become law. And lastly, we're going to discuss how cannabis companies have an amazing opportunity to show a new group of consumers that they are truly great brands, an acronym for good, regenerative, equitable, accountable, and transparent, via corporate transparency, and how using the frameworks of ESG and sustainability will help build the trust factor with consumers and with each other. Welcoming now to the show is the amazing Jeff Trotter. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you so much. Wow, what an introduction.
Of course, let's jump right into it. That's what we do here. #1 show trending on education on WOR. So, Jeff, how do we properly position cannabis beyond prohibitionist thinking, and how can a fully legalized cannabis industry change the playing field?
Great question. I think from our perspective, we just need to release the plant, leave the plant, let it be. And I think if we can take the plant, cannabis, in all of its forms, whether it's marijuana, whether it's hemp, and then take into consideration where the plant could then be used, whether it's in recreational adult use space, whether it's in medical cannabis, or whether it's in what's sometimes referred to as industrial cannabis or hemp, then we have a huge opportunity to move then into a legalized, normalized, regulated space. And then just let governments, corporations, civil society, media, investors, and the legal world have at it. And I think at that point, we fundamentally believe that we could see the plant could deliver significant upside for humanity.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, if you look at where the statistics are headed, it's definitely in the right direction. According to the United Nations, 159 million people around the world are currently using marijuana. To put things into perspective, that's more than 4% of the planet's population. And the global cannabis market is projected to grow from 29 billion in 2021 to 198 billion by the year 2028. Just in 7 years, that's a huge, huge leap. And in the US, according to Leafy's job report, you have about 500,000 full-time equivalent jobs that are now supported by legal cannabis as of last January. So the industry is creating an average of 280 new jobs per day as of last year. Definitely great statistics, headed into the right direction. All right, let's shift a little bit. Let's chat legislation. So as we closed out 2022, Jeff, we saw the federal government pass its first standalone cannabis law, the Medical Marijuana and Cannabidiol Research Expansion Act, with, of course, more possible federal reform on the horizon. So let's chat Safe Banking Act, and let's get into this. The Safe and Fair Enforcement Banking Act would permit banks to do business with plant-touching cannabis companies. And of course, now we know that cannabis remains federally illegal, and traditional financial institutions do not facilitate cannabis-related transactions. So for banks that want to work with state-regulated cannabis-related businesses, the Safe Banking Act would be game changer. Talk to me about this.
Well, it would be a game changer. And I think it's right to point out, from our perspective, we look at banking with a lowercase b and an uppercase b. With a lowercase b, we're talking about the banking services that could be provided to cannabis businesses in the same way as banking services are provided to existing businesses, whether it's helping with payroll, helping with point of sale activities, etc. The other banking, the one with a capital B, is where we really then look at all other financial services, including banking. So that's investment services, it's the capital markets, etc. Now, it largely depends on which version of the Safe Banking Act passes, but if it's an advanced, what sometimes is referred to as Safe Plus, then there is an opportunity for already legal cannabis businesses that are operating here in the United States, but trading in Canada because they're not allowed to trade on, say, NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange, but they could uplist. That would bring an incredible amount of liquidity into this marketplace. And the cannabis industry right now, even though it's adding a number of jobs per day, it really needs this liquidity. And so the Safe Banking Act is not only going to help the cannabis space, but it will also help the financial services space too. And we know that there are enough players that want to step into this industry.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, SAFE would fight crime. It would promote diversity and boost the economy by making, to your point, more traditional capital sources available. And cannabis companies, if you think of it, are frequently constrained by being forced to conduct business in cash and the risk that goes along with that, such as the risk of violent crime, right? But by providing safe access to banks, I can't agree more. SAFE would decrease on-hand cash at cannabis facilities and in turn reduce violent crime in the cannabis industry. And lastly, and this is the major point, it would boost the economy. So yes, what you're saying is spot on. The United States cannabis market is projected to grow to as much as $46 billion by the year 2025. And getting that money into the traditional monetary system would provide greater access to capital from traditional sources and potentially open investors coming into the market. So this is game changers. We definitely need the SAFE Act. All right, so let's chat Medical Marijuana and Cannabidiol Research Expansion Act. This recently enacted federal law endeavors to facilitate cannabis research. Why is this important, Jeff?
Well, it's very important because right now cannabis is a Schedule I drug, which basically puts it in the same bin as other drugs like heroin and cocaine, which clearly it is not. In fact, to put it bluntly, cannabis isn't a drug, it's a medicine. And so what this particular act is going to do is going to look to either reschedule and move it down to Schedule 3 or Schedule 4, possibly 5. There's even a foundation called Schedule 6 that's actually looking to move it to that particular schedule. The alternative is it just is descheduled, which means it becomes legal. And that is something that this particular act is pursuing. Where that's going to end up, who knows? But there's a very good sense within the community that it will, at the very least, be rescheduled to 3 or 4.
And that's extremely important. I mean, when you look at it, if you look at it in hindsight, outside of the research, it really does force the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA, to make quicker decisions on, first of all, applications to research cannabis, or on number two, manufacture it to supply the researchers. Because further, if you look at it, what this law is going to provide on top of descheduling it and declassifying, and taking cannabis outside of that context. But the law is going to give research applicants different ways to have their research protocols reviewed, allowed, and ultimately approved by the DEA. So this law also authorizes certain entities to manufacture, distribute, dispense, or possess cannabis and cannabidiol, CBD, for medical research, with the goal of developing cannabis-derived, commercially available, FDA-approved drugs. And really, that's where we want to go. We want FDA approved drugs, because we do want the FDA to jump in here, because to your point, and you said it, it is not a drug. It helps you. This is not a negative drug off the streets. You can't classify it like that. This is medicine for the soul for many. All right. So let's go back to, we have about 3 minutes left here. Let's talk about great brands. I know that that's something at the forefront of everything that you guys are focusing on. GREAT is an acronym for good, regenerative, equitable, accountable, and transparent. Now, you claim that cannabis companies have an amazing opportunity to show a new group of consumers that they are truly great brands, okay? And you're going to do this via corporate transparency and using the frameworks of ESG and sustainability to help build the trust factor with consumers. Now, I know that your technology play, the soon-to-be RegTech platform, is launching, and that's going to help cannabis companies measure, monitor, and report on their ESG strategies. Now, guys, when we say ESG, we're talking about very specific stuff: environmental, social, and governance. And that's a new trending acronym these days. Talk to me about this notion.
Yeah, from our perspective, there are many companies, not only cannabis companies, but let's focus on the cannabis space. They really are beginning to understand more and more the urgency around their ESG performance, their environmental, social, governance performance, which in essence is a performance metric that enables external parties like investors to see how that cannabis company is mitigating risks that are externally, created, like greenhouse gas emissions. So there's environmental issues, social issues like diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we all know in the cannabis space, given the history of the plant, war on drugs, etc., that diversity, equity, and inclusion is critical. Same with governance in all businesses. We need better governance, the way boardrooms behave, etc. We believe that if we can demonstrate and help cannabis companies capture that information and share it, then their access to capital will improve, because they're demonstrating they're mitigating risks. Then they can move into the realms of sustainability and tell their story about how their products and services are impacting beneficially the planet, people, as well as the economy. And so we're helping them do that. At the same time, what this also does, it brings trust into this space. And given, again, the war on drugs and where we are moving now beyond the war on drugs, trust is an essential piece and the fabric of the cannabis space. And we fundamentally believe that given that cannabis companies, without federal legalization, cannot advertise and market at a product level, they certainly can at a corporate level. And one of the things that we're advocating for is that if they take that notion that actually doing good and making money are not mutually exclusive, okay? Being regenerative, not extractive, not depleting, whether it's of human resources or plant resources. Being equitable, again, understanding that there are equitable business models. How do we ensure that the social equity play in the cannabis space is played out fairly? How do we also make sure that cannabis executives are accountable for their behaviors? And all of this will be manufactured, if you like, through transparency, and that's what the platform will deliver. When you have GREAT, you really do have a great brand. And subsequently, what will happen with Gen Z and folks that look like me, these are important markets for this space, and they want to interact with businesses where they know that these organizations are great brands.
Amazing. And you have something so proprietary right now. I mean, what the work that you do at Regenibus is amazing because your advisory work builds out on a cannabis company's ESG position through the development of what you call this agreed to materiality assessment, in where you build on this positioning by advising on sustainability and branding to help clients create this long-term stakeholder value, which for me, I think is so proprietary. And then your media work is with events through the Regenerative Cannabis Live event series that you hold at the United Nations right here in New York City, as well as your soon to be released hybrid show called Transformational Cannabis, which will be recorded live from the New York Stock Exchange floor. I mean, you definitely have some incredible opportunities ahead of you, Jeff.
Well, thank you. Yeah, look, I mean, there are not enough hours in a day. In fact, my co-founder partner has just moved to Florida. We actually ought to be moving to Mars, where there's more hours in a day.
I couldn't agree more. Well, listen, we are out of time, my friend. Jeff, thank you so much for coming on. What an enlightening, very, very full of details and very educational segment. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Guys, you definitely have to check out Jeff Trotter, Chief Growth Officer and co-founder at Regenibus. That was our cannabis culture segment brought to you by Caldwell Soames. Do check out Regenibus on their website at regenibus.com, or you can also head to regenerativecannabislive.com. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OG Pay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OG Pay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out ogpay.com.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams, welcoming back to our cannabis culture segment brought to you by Caldwell Soames. We're talking with Jeff Trotter, Chief Growth Officer and co-founder at Regenibus. Welcome back to the show, my friend.
Great to be here again.
Okay, so let's jump into it. In October of 2020 of last year, President Biden released a statement pardoning federal offenses of simple marijuana possession. We talked about this a little bit earlier in the interview. And in addition, he asked the Secretary of Health and Human Services and the Attorney General to review cannabis's classification as a Schedule I drug, which is the highest level of classification under federal law, although not without drawbacks. Rescheduling to Schedule II would be an overall victory to the medical marijuana industry, of course, like other things are that we're waiting for, but it would likely allow medical cannabis to be grown in one state and sold in another. What do you say to that? And is the declassification to a level 2 enough?
No, quite simply, it's not enough. We just need to move beyond this folly, frankly, and this nonsense. I use that term. It is a medicine. It is a plant that, prior to prohibition was being used widely. If we look at indigenous populations, they've been using this plant in a very responsible way for millennia. And it just makes no sense. And so I think we need to just move to descheduling, frankly. Yes, it would be a victory to move to, say, Schedule 3 or 4, but it's not enough. And frankly, let's look also beyond these shores. Here in the United States, as we're sort of discussing and thinking about all of this, other nations out there are beginning to move ahead. Look at Germany, one of the biggest economies in Europe now. And south of here, we're looking at Colombia. Brazil have just opened up their ideas around medical cannabis. So we can see that there is an increasing openness towards this. I just think the US government should move straight ahead and just go straight to descheduling and be done with it.
I couldn't agree more. Well, the good news is that a much hyped letter from California cannabis regulators to the state attorney general recently indicated that the Golden State, Jeff, is teeing up interstate trade in marijuana. The state The state's Department of Cannabis Control, the DCC, sent an 8-page letter to the Office of California Attorney General Rob Bonta, laying out the legal argument for how California could sidestep federal obstacles if state officials decide to greenlight exports of cannabis across state lines. And the fact that California, Jeff, the 5th largest economy on the planet and the largest cannabis economy in the world, is taking the bull by the horns and saying, hey, we want to make progress here to get consumers what they want by growing plants in the right environmental place is a major indicator on where we are headed. So I think outside of declassifying it, we're making a lot of traction, but we need so much more support.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, at any one time currently in the United States, there's roughly 750 cannabis-related bills going through different state legislatures or through the federal government in Congress. That's remarkable that many bills. So when we see pockets of this, what we say forward thinking, as we're now seeing here in California, I mean, that's to be applauded. Some of the other bills are not as sort of open and in terms of the framing of what they're looking to do. But we're seeing some significant shifts here, and that's a great thing. But you're absolutely right, because if you look at the fact that currently you cannot cross state lines with a manufactured product in the cannabis space, I mean, it just beggars belief. And how is it then these organizations, companies, big or small, how are they going to really sort of think about growth when they're restricted in such a way? It makes no sense. And certainly for me, as you could probably tell, I'm not from around here. You know, I just don't understand. It sort of strikes me as almost like the disunited state of America rather than the United States of America.
We're so disunited. We are, in fact, disunited at this point right now. And, you know, as much as I'm a proud patriot, I'm an American, it doesn't feel too good. But listen, given that public support for reform remains at an all-time high, according to, you know, recent research, we see this all the time. We do expect, you know, legalization and reform at the state level to continue, of course, aggressively in this year ahead. And the increasing research on the use of cannabis and its medicinal properties, of course, Jeff, we know this has led to its increased use to treat various chronic conditions. And like you said, it is a medicine, not a drug. I mean, they are found to be effective in treating chronic pain and nausea due to chemotherapy. Furthermore, the constant rise in the legitimization of medical cannabis has resulted in the growth of the market. And for instance, if you look at the FDA, they have approved the use of cannabis-derived drug products such as Epidiolex and Sesamet for treating seizures and chemotherapy-induced side effects, respectively. So if you're really looking at the research done, how can this plant grow if we're shackled, if the industry is shackled, when there's so much good being done? And this is the most important part. In December of 2 years ago, of 2020, the U.S. House of Reps passed the legislation to remove cannabis from the Controlled Substance Act of 1970. That was a major milestone. But I mean, think about it. We're talking about cannabis as a controlled substance. Of course, it should have been removed. That's 1970. That law was, you know, fossils made that law from the year before Christ, so to speak. Like, get with a program, people. Yeah, I mean, look, like that particular year, you know, or those years, 70, 71, that's when Nixon put into effect in June the war on drugs, which, as we know, was not a war on drugs, it was a war on people. It was a war on people. Black, brown, indigenous, underrepresented, disenfranchised people. And it continues. And that's what we need to be looking more at. And you mentioned earlier expungements. So in those states now where we are seeing folks being released from jails for nonviolent cannabis-related offenses, I mean, hallelujah, that's fantastic. No one should be in jail in the United States now on some possession charge. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense at all. But it's not enough to expunge the sentence. You still then need to go further, because even though you're expunging, what you're not doing is enabling that person to go back into this industry, which is now developing at pace. So you're denying these former prisoners jailed for a nonsense offense, you're denying them a fundamental human right to actually go and work. So we need to not even, you know, rest on our laurels of, yay, expungement. It's not enough. Yeah. You really need to go beyond that.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. Well, we are out of time. You know, you and I could talk about this all day, every day, and we will be. For
We
now,
will.
we're going to leave it at that. But Jeff, thank you so much for coming on. It was truly a pleasure chatting with you.
Great. Thank you ever so much.
Absolutely. Guys, you definitely have to check out Regenibus. Check out Jeff Trotter, Chief Growth Officer and co-founder at Regenibus. That was our cannabis culture segment brought to you by Caldwell Soames. Head to regenibus.com and definitely do check out regenerativecannabislive.com. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Animoca Brands. As a worldwide industry leader in digital entertainment, blockchain, and digital property rights, Animoca Brands plays a key role in the future growth of the open metaverse. During unstable times like these in burgeoning industries similar to blockchain, it's important to realize that blockchain can and will survive and eventually flourish, and industry-leading companies like Animoca Brands will guide the transformation into the future. Animoca Brands will keep building a better and fairer Web3 ecosystem, create impact for better, and bring true digital property rights to all internet users through NFTs and the open metaverse. For more information and to become part of the excitement, go to animocabrands.com. That's animocabrands.com.
That's a wrap, my dear friends. Remember to join me right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, every Saturday night from 9 to 10 p.m. Or you could head to 710WOR.iHeart.com/A Moment of Zen. Also, remember that we're now live on Traverse TV, Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern, YouTube Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern. And of course, all episodes of A Moment of Zen are now available on Kathy Ireland's Your Home TV streaming platform. You could head directly to our channel at mox.yourhometv.com. It's all free programming. Thank you for listening to A Moment of Zen. It's been an absolute pleasure being your host. Thanks again to all of our sponsors that continue to make this show possible. And remember, happiness is the only thing that multiplies when you share it.